Hi, I'm going to show you how to use this cheap diagnostic device to see whether your cold air intake is actually making any difference to your vehicle. We'll start by having a look at the intake system of my Cayenne, and then I'll just show you some of the details. I'm going to start by removing this side cover so we can have a better look. So underneath the cover, you can see this is where the air cleaner sits. I'm just going to remove the air cleaner so we can have a look at what's going on inside. So if we have a look inside, look right at the bottom here. Down there we can see that that's where the air is drawn in from outside the vehicle. Okay, I've put the air cleaner back in, but I will show you. If we look into the wheel well, we'll try to turn the, as you can barely see in there, that hole, that's where the air is drawn in to get into the air cleaner. I'm just going to remove this cover as well so we can have a look at what's going on underneath. So the air is drawn from the outside of the vehicle through the air filter. It comes through the inlet. This is the mass airflow sensor. It joins with the other intake. So this one's got two air intakes. And right in through the throttle body. Now the throttle body measures the throttle body includes a temperature sensor that measures the air temperature of the incoming air charge, and that's what we're going to have a look at from the inside. Okay, so I'm inside the car now. I'm going to plug in this diagnostic device into the diagnostic port. It's underneath the dash at that. Let's see, get it. Okay, that's plugged in. And we've got power. So I'm going to start up the car and then we're going to have a look at what we can see. Okay, so what we're going to look for is on the live data. Okay, so let's have a look at what we can see. We're going to look for live data. So what else do we have? Okay, system status, monitors, there we go. Let's have a look at the data stream. So what we're looking for, so we've got the inlet manifold pressure. We're looking for IAT, there we go, inlet air temperature. So that value is going to tell us what the value of, what the temperature of the incoming air is. And at the moment that's 11 degrees. And we'll talk about that a little more now. So let's talk about the cold air intake and the IAT value. Engines don't run on air, they run on oxygen. And here's the key idea. Colder air is denser than hot air. That means in the same volume, cold air contains more oxygen molecules. More oxygen means more fuel can be burned, and more fuel means more energy, and more energy means more power. Now let's put some real numbers on this. Air density is governed by the ideal gas law. Without getting too technical, at constant pressure, air density is inversely proportional to temperature. So if the temperature goes down, density goes up. So let's say your air intake is 30 degrees, that's a hot engine bay, versus 10 degrees, cool outside air. Converted to Kelvin, that's 303 versus 283 Kelvin. That's roughly a 7% increase in air density. If the engine management system actually adds some extra fuel to match. So for a 150 horsepower engine, that's about 10 more horsepower. And modern ECUs absolutely do. So when people talk about cold air equals more power, this is the actual mechanism. It's not magic, it's not noise, it's thermodynamics. Your engine computer constantly looks at three main things: intake air temperature, mass airflow, and the oxygen in the exhaust. And it uses that to calculate how much fuel can I safely and efficiently add right now. So if colder, denser air enters the system, the ECU responds by injecting more fuel, and the engine makes more power. But here's the trap. If your cold air intake still pulls hot air from an engine bay, the sensor will see that, and your power gain will essentially be zero. Now, the air intake temperature we read of 11 degrees Celsius tells me something immediately. This intake system on my Porsche is already pulling true outside air, not engine bay air, which means any aftermarket system has a very high bar to beat. So here's the proper test method if you're adding a cold air intake to your car. And this is what most people skip. Step 1, measure the IAT before installing the air intake. Step 2, install the intake. And then step 3, repeat the temperature measurement under the same conditions. If the temperature is lower, you've improved the system and you're going to make a little bit more power. If it's the same, you've mostly changed the sound. And if it's higher, you've probably built a hot air intake. And yes, you can do that at idle and stationary, because if the intake is well designed, it should isolate itself from engine heat even when the airflow is low. And here's the reality most people don't like hearing. Older cars that pull air from inside the engine bay, they have huge potential gains with a cold air intake. But modern performance vehicles like this Porsche, the engineers already solved the problem, which means there's not much room for improvement. So the next time someone tells you their intake added 20 extra horsepower, ask them a simple question. What did your air intake temperature do? Because sensors don't lie. If you understand the system, you can predict the outcome.